Mechanic saved his CEO from a dark street at midnight. Next morning, she called him to her office. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Romance Rewind Stories. Before we dive into today's incredible story, I have a small favor to ask. If you're enjoying these heartwarming tales, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads. It's quick, it's free, and it's the best way to support us in bringing you more emotional romance stories. And here's something I'd love to know. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I always enjoy seeing our amazing community from around the world. Oh, and if this story touches your heart, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps us grow and reach more people who love these kinds of tales. Now, let's get into today's story. Single dad saved his drunk boss from trouble. The next day, she didn't pretend to forget. It was almost midnight when the rain began to fall. Sharp, cold streaks slicing through the dim glow of city streetlights. Nathan Cole gripped the steering wheel of his old sedan, the windshield wipers fighting a losing battle against the downpour. His 10-year-old son, Oliver, slept soundly in the back seat, a small backpack resting on his chest like a shield against the world. They were heading home from Nathan's second job, cleaning offices at night to make ends meet. Nathan's eyes burned with exhaustion, the kind of bone-deep tiredness that came from working 16-hour days, 6 days a week. But he couldn't complain. Oliver needed new shoes, the rent was due, and his late wife's medical bills still haunted his mailbox like ghosts refusing to rest. When he saw the flashing hazard lights near the corner of Brighton Avenue, his first instinct was to keep driving. It wasn't his problem. He had enough of his own. But something made him slow down. Maybe it was the memory of Sarah, his wife, who had always stopped to help strangers. Maybe it was just the kind of man he'd been raised to be. There, standing unsteadily beside a sleek black Mercedes, was a woman in a soaked designer dress and high heels. Her hair was plastered to her face, and she was trying desperately to open her car door, but her keys kept slipping from her trembling hands. The rain hammered down on her like judgment itself. Nathan almost kept driving until she stumbled backward into the street, directly into the path of an oncoming truck. His heart lurched. Time seemed to slow. In one motion, he slammed on the brakes, threw open his door, and sprinted through the rain. His shoes splashed through puddles as he reached her just in time, grabbing her by the arm and yanking her back onto the sidewalk. The truck roared past, horn blaring, the driver shouting something obscene out the window. The woman gasped, clinging to Nathan's jacket with white-knuckled hands. She was disoriented, her eyes unfocused, mumbling something incoherent about her phone and a meeting tomorrow. The smell of expensive whiskey clung to her like perfume. When she looked up at him, Nathan froze. It was her, Vanessa Hart, his boss, the CEO of Hartwell Motors, the same woman who had publicly reprimanded him that very morning for arriving 2 minutes late to a maintenance briefing. The same woman whose icy perfectionism made grown men nervous and whose reputation for ruthlessness was legendary in the company. And here she was, drenched, trembling, vulnerable, her carefully constructed armor completely shattered. Her mascara ran in dark rivers down her cheeks, and her designer dress clung to her like a second skin. She looked nothing like the commanding figure who ruled the boardroom with an iron fist. She looked human, broken, lost. Nathan didn't say a word. He couldn't. What do you say to the woman who holds your livelihood in her hands when you find her like this? Instead, he gently guided her back toward his car, his hand steady on her elbow as she stumbled in her heels. "I can call someone," she slurred, fumbling for a phone that wasn't in her hands. "I don't need... I'm fine." "You're not fine, ma'am," Nathan said quietly. "Let me just get you home safe." In the back seat, Oliver stirred, rubbing his eyes. "Dad? Who's that lady?" Nathan glanced at his son in the rearview mirror and managed a tired smile. "Someone who needs a little help tonight, buddy." Go back to sleep. Vanessa muttered protests as Nathan helped her into the passenger seat, but they were weak, half-hearted. He covered her with his worn-out jacket, the one with the frayed cuffs and the oil stains that never quite came out, and she pulled it around herself like a lifeline. "You shouldn't have to," she whispered, her eyes already closing. "It's okay," Nathan said softly. "Everyone needs help sometimes." He found her address through her car registration, an elegant mansion on the edge of town, the kind of place that had gates and security cameras, and probably cost more than Nathan would make in 10 lifetimes. When they arrived, she could barely stand. He had to half-carry her up the marble steps, her weight leaning heavily against him as the rain continued to pour. Inside, the house was dark and empty, cold despite its grandeur. Nathan could see framed awards on the walls, expensive art that meant nothing, furniture that looked like it had never been sat on. It was a beautiful prison. He guided Vanessa to the couch, helped her lie down, and draped a throw blanket over her. She was already half asleep, her breathing evening out. "Thank you," she breathed, so quietly he almost didn't hear it. "You're kind." Nathan found a glass of water and left it on the coffee table beside her, along with 2 aspirin. He turned off the lights, locked the door from the inside, and quietly slipped out, pulling it shut behind him. As he walked back to his car through the rain, he felt a strange ache in his chest. Not pity exactly. Something deeper. Recognition, maybe. He knew what it looked like when someone was drowning. He'd felt that way himself after Sarah died. And tonight, Vanessa Hart had been drowning. He didn't expect her to remember. People like Vanessa lived in another world, where kindness was a press release, not a way of life. He knew that come morning, she'd return to her sharp tone and dismissive eyes, pretending the night never happened. That was fine. He hadn't helped her for gratitude. He'd helped her because it was the right thing to do. But he was wrong. The next morning, as Nathan entered the Hartwell Motors lobby at 6:45, the air was unusually tense. He felt eyes on him immediately. Whispers rippled through the early crowd of employees getting coffee and checking their phones. Someone nudged their co-worker and pointed in his direction. Nathan's stomach tightened. Had something happened? Was he in trouble? Then the elevator doors opened with a soft chime, and out stepped Vanessa Hart. She looked different today. Still composed, still wearing her signature tailored suit and heels, but something had shifted. Her gaze swept the lobby and landed on him with an intensity that made his breath catch. Her eyes were softer somehow, no longer the cold grey of a winter sky, but warmer, almost uncertain. "Mr. Cole," she called out, her voice carrying across the marble floor. Every head turned. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Nathan froze, his toolbox suddenly feeling very heavy in his hand. She walked toward him slowly, deliberately, the click of her heels echoing in the sudden silence. People stepped aside, creating a path. Nathan could feel his heart pounding in his chest. "My office," she said quietly when she reached him. "Now please." The whispers exploded behind them as they walked to the elevator. Nathan could feel dozens of eyes boring into his back. What had he done? Was she angry that he'd seen her like that? Was this where he got fired for overstepping some invisible boundary? Inside her glass-walled office on the 20th floor, Vanessa closed the blinds, something Nathan had never seen her do. She stood with her back to him for a moment, her shoulders rising and falling with a deep breath. When she turned around, her usual confidence had cracked, revealing something vulnerable underneath. "You helped me last night," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You didn't have to. You could have driven past. You could have left me there on that street. But you didn't." Nathan shifted uncomfortably. "Anyone would have done the same, Mom." "No." She shook her head firmly. "Not anyone. Most people would have pulled out their phones and taken pictures, posted it online, sold it to the tabloids." Her jaw tightened. "Do you have any idea what a photo of me like that would be worth?" He hadn't thought about it. "You saved my life, Mr. Cole." Her eyes glistened. And I don't even remember if I said thank you." "You did," Nathan said softly. "You said thank you." She smiled then, a real smile, small and fragile but genuine. It transformed her face completely. For the first time since he'd started working at Hartwell Motors 3 years ago, Nathan saw Vanessa Hart as a person, not just a position. "You have a son, don't you?" she asked suddenly. "Oliver?" Nathan blinked, surprised. "How do you—" "I looked at your file this morning," she admitted, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. "I wanted to know more about the man who showed me such kindness." She paused. "You've been working double shifts. Maintenance during the day, janitorial at night. 60, 70 hours a week." He nodded slowly, unsure where this was going. "I never noticed before." Her voice broke slightly. "I walk these halls every day, and I never really saw you. I'm sorry for how I've treated you, Mr. Cole. I was blind. Worse than blind, I was cruel." "You weren't—" he started, but she held up a hand. "Yes, I was. I yelled at you yesterday for being 2 minutes late. 2 minutes." She laughed bitterly. "And last night you saved my life. The universe has a funny way of teaching lessons." The rest of the day felt surreal. Word spread through Hartwell Motors like wildfire. The CEO had called Nathan Cole into her office. They'd been in there for 20 minutes. Some people said he was getting fired. Others whispered that he'd saved her from something terrible. A few suggested there was something romantic happening, though they were quickly hushed. By lunchtime, Vanessa had done something unprecedented. She gave Nathan a full paid day off and sent him home with a company car and a gift card to Oliver's favorite restaurant. "Take your son somewhere nice," she'd said. "You've earned it." But Nathan couldn't stop thinking about her, about the way she'd looked in the rain, about the emptiness of that beautiful mansion, about the loneliness he'd seen in her eyes, the kind of loneliness that came when success built walls so high around your heart that no one could reach you anymore. He recognized it because he'd felt it himself. The next Saturday, Nathan was in the company garage, a side job he did on weekends to make extra money, fixing employees' cars for cash under the table. He was elbow deep in an engine when he heard footsteps. "Need a hand?" He looked up, startled, to see Vanessa Hart standing in the doorway, but she didn't look like the CEO today. She wore faded jeans, a plain white blouse with the sleeves rolled up, and her hair was tied back in a simple ponytail. She looked younger. Real. "Miss Hart?" Nathan straightened, wiping grease from his hands with a rag. "What are you doing here?" She stepped into the garage, glancing around with genuine curiosity. "You helped me when I was falling apart. I thought maybe I could help you keep things together." "You're serious, dead serious," she smiled. "Besides, I used to love working on cars when I was younger, before the business took over everything." And so it began. Over the next few weeks, Vanessa started spending her weekends in the garage. At first, Nathan was nervous, worried he'd say something wrong or that she'd get bored and leave. But she didn't. She showed up every Saturday morning with coffee and pastries, rolled up her sleeves, and got to work. She wasn't just there for show either. She actually knew her way around an engine. They worked side by side, talking about carburetors and timing belts, and slowly, carefully, they began to talk about other things too. About loss, about loneliness, about what it meant to keep going when everything felt impossible. Oliver adored her. He started calling her Miss V and would show her his drawings and tell her long, rambling stories about school and his friends. She listened to every word with the kind of attention most adults never gave children, asking questions and laughing at his jokes. One afternoon, while Oliver was playing in the corner with a set of toy cars, Vanessa sat down on an overturned crate, her hands clasped between her knees. "Can I tell you something?" she asked quietly. Nathan looked up from the transmission he was working on. "Of course." She took a deep breath. "The night you found me, I wasn't just drunk. I was trying to forget." Her voice wavered. "My father died 3 weeks ago. We had a terrible fight before he passed. I told him I hated him, that he'd never understood me, And then he was gone, and I never got to take it back. Tears spilled down her cheeks, and she didn't try to hide them. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Everyone at the company was watching me, waiting for me to stumble, to show weakness, so I held it together during the day and fell apart at night. She looked at him with red-rimmed eyes. That night, I got in my car and just drove. I didn't even know where I was going. I just wanted to disappear. Nathan's throat tightened. He set down his wrench and moved to sit beside her. "You pulled me out of more than just a street, Nathan," she whispered. "You pulled me out of a dark place I didn't think I could escape." He didn't know what to say. So instead, he just sat there beside her, his shoulder touching hers, offering the quiet comfort of presence. "You're stronger than you think, Vanessa," he finally said. She smiled weakly. "No, I just met someone who reminded me what real strength looks like. Someone who keeps going every day, no matter how hard it gets, because he has something worth fighting for." She glanced at Oliver. "You're a good father, Nathan. Your son is lucky to have you." "I'm lucky to have him," Nathan replied softly. Something shifted between them in that moment. An understanding. A connection that ran deeper than words. As the weeks passed, Vanessa began to change. She smiled more at work. She learned people's names, not just the executives, but the janitors, the security guards, the people in the mailroom. She started a new company initiative called Hartwell Hearts, a program offering single parents flexible schedules, childcare assistance, and educational scholarships for their children. When she announced it at the quarterly company meeting, she stood at the podium and said, "This program exists because of a man who believed in kindness when no one was watching, a man who reminded me that success means nothing if we forget our humanity along the way." Nathan, standing in the back of the auditorium in his maintenance uniform, felt tears burning in his eyes. But life, as it often does, had one more test waiting for them. A month later, Nathan received a call that changed everything. A company in Boston was offering him a position as head of their facilities department. The pay was nearly double what he made now. Full benefits, normal hours. It was the opportunity he'd been praying for since Sarah died, but it meant leaving the garage, leaving the life he'd built here, leaving Vanessa. The night before he had to give his answer, he found himself in the garage one last time. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of amber and gold. He was trying to memorize the way the light fell through the windows, the smell of motor oil and metal, the feeling of peace he'd found here. Footsteps echoed behind him. He didn't have to turn around to know who it was. "So," Vanessa said softly, leaning against the workbench beside him, "you're leaving." It wasn't a question. "How did you—" "I'm still the CEO," she said with a sad smile. "I hear things." She was quiet for a moment. "Boston! That's a good opportunity, Nathan. You should take it." "It's for Oliver," he said, his voice thick. "He deserves a better life than this." She turned to face him, and he could see tears glistening in her eyes. "You've already given him a better life. You've given him a father who shows him what it means to be a good man. That's worth more than any paycheck, Vanessa." "But I understand," she continued. "I do, and I want you to go. I want you to take that job and give Oliver everything he deserves." Her voice broke. "You gave me something too. You gave me myself back. You reminded me that there's more to life than board meetings and profit margins." Nathan wanted to speak, wanted to tell her that she'd changed his life just as much, that these past few months had made him feel alive again, in a way he hadn't since Sarah died. But the words stuck in his throat. "Promise me something," Vanessa whispered. "Promise me you'll never stop being who you are, the man who saves people even when they don't deserve it." He could only nod. She reached up and touched his cheek gently, then turned and walked away. He watched her silhouette disappear into the fading light and felt something inside him break and heal at the same time. The next morning, As Nathan loaded the last boxes into his car, Oliver buckled into the back seat. Vanessa appeared at the garage entrance. She was holding the same umbrella Nathan had used that rainy night, the one he'd forgotten to take back. She didn't say anything. She just raised one hand in a silent goodbye. Oliver waved back enthusiastically. "Bye, Miss V. I'll miss you." Nathan met her eyes in the rearview mirror as he started the engine. She stood perfectly still, watching them drive away, not moving until his car disappeared around the corner. 4 months later, on a cold Tuesday morning, a package arrived at Nathan's new apartment in Boston. Inside was a framed photograph. Vanessa standing with a group of smiling employees beneath a newly installed sign that read, "The Cole Initiative, because kindness saves more than just lives." Below the photo, in Vanessa's elegant handwriting, was a note. "You didn't just save me that night, Nathan. You changed who I am. Thank you for not pretending to forget. The garage isn't the same without you. Neither am I. With gratitude and something that feels like hope, Vanessa." Nathan held the letter for a long time, then carefully placed it on the mantel beside Oliver's latest drawing, a picture of their old garage with two stick figures working side by side. Written across the top in a child's careful handwriting, "Second chances start here." He smiled through his tears, thinking about that rainy night that had changed everything. Sometimes fate doesn't need grand gestures or perfect timing. Sometimes all it takes is one person choosing kindness when no one is watching. Sometimes that's enough to save 2 lives instead of 1. And that's where our story ends today. What did you think? Did Nathan and Vanessa's journey touch your heart? Let us know in the comments what your favorite moment was. If you enjoyed this story, we have so many more waiting for you. Check out our playlist for more heartwarming romance tales that will make you believe in love all over again. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and give us a thumbs up. Your support means everything to us. Until next time, keep believing in love, keep believing in second chances, and remember, the best stories are the ones that remind us we all deserve our happily ever after. See you in the next story.